City News is brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.
Kia ora Rotorua, ahead in tonight's bulletin. The Rangiora Sexual Health Clinic was officially reopened at a special ceremony last night. A new elder abuse and neglect prevention service is planned for Rotorua, and a prestigious award win for the museum's Wingspan Birds of Prey project. The Rangiora Sexual Health Clinic was officially reopened at a special ceremony at Rotorua Hospital last night. Dr. Kate Mills says the aim of the clinic is to provide holistic care with quality sexual health services. She says the clinic also now includes a 24-hour sexual assault service.
I think people are becoming more open in talking about their sexual health. So we have a lot more conversations about things that are hard to talk about. When I talk about sexual health, I'm thinking about that in the widest possible terms. That's about your relationship, the health of your relationship, not just infections that you might have, but it's about protecting your fertility and your contraception, and of course consequences of abuse around sexuality.
Detective Senior Sergeant Zane Smith says the new services at the clinic will help in solving crime.
The SOUTS contract they talk about provides both forensic coverage, which the police require for people who come to us immediately after, a few days after a sexual assault, but it also provides a service where people in the community can come regardless of whether or not they want the police involved, and that's really important so that people who may not want to report to police or have their matter investigated can get treatment and ongoing care. This stuff's invaluable for obtaining forensic evidence. A lot of sexual assaults, we rely on the forensic evidence that Kate Mills and her team obtain for us.
And a new elder abuse and neglect prevention service has been confirmed for Rotorua. Local MP Todd McLeay says the government's announced an investment of $170,000 to expand elder abuse services in Rotorua and Kawerau. He says he's pleased the funding will provide a further tool to support Rotorua's seniors. Rotorua Museum and Wingspan's urban release of native falcons in the government gardens has been recognised with an award win at the recent National Museum Awards. Director Stuart Brown says the Wingspan Conservation Project has had many positive spin-offs for the museum.
Yeah, well, we a collaboration really between the museum, the community, and the Wingspan Bird of Prey Trust. They're based out of Paradise Valley here, and they look at taking care of the New Zealand falcons throughout New Zealand, actually. So we're delighted to be working with them. The efforts of Debbie Stewart and Noel out at Wingspan to really get this project off to being the first urban release of an endangered species in New Zealand is just outstanding.
That's wonderful. And so you've got volunteers, tracking them day and night. What are they looking for?
They're looking for a number of things. Birds' behaviour is one. We're also making sure that we're capturing and getting understanding of that they're eating from the food tables that we have around government gardens, and also just monitoring where their whereabouts are. So we've had them monitored as far away as Linmore, Paradise Valley, and we've had one in an apartment on a fridge. So
wonderful,
which is just outstanding.
In sport tonight, to celebrate the Bay of Plenty Rugby Union's focus on community, or Baywide Bay Pride, the union launched a competition to design an alternate Steamers jersey to be worn later this year. CEO Mike Rogers says he's keen to see designs that illustrate pride in the Bay of Plenty. He says the best 3 designs will be put to the public for voting later this month. To enter a design, visit boprugby.co.nz. To your weather update now. Tonight, showers with light winds and an overnight low of 15. Tomorrow, Thursday, cloudy periods with a few showers, light winds, a high of 21 and a low of 14. And the outlook for Friday, rain developing, northeasterly turns westerly later, a high of 20 and a low of 13. And the marine forecast for Lake Rotorua, northeast 10 knots developing in the morning and then dying out in the evening with waves less than half a metre, fair visibility in a few showers. Still to come tonight in City News, We catch up with RECT Chairman Graham Hall to find out about the Capital Development Fund. We hear about plans for next month's Te Aroha Kapahaka Regionals. And Green MP Kevin Haig has news about his party's latest health policies.
Well, if you've got a capital project that needs some funding, you have until the 30th of June this year to apply for funding through the Rotorua Energy Charitable Trust. Now, with me today is the Chairman of the Trust, Graham Hall. Thanks for joining us today, Graham. Now, it's always great to hear that funding's available for people here in Rotorua, but what's the amount, what's the figure that people can apply for?
Well, Alan, a little bit of history. We started off 19 years ago and we had 32 million. We've been able to grow that up to about 130 million. And at the same time, over that last 19 years, we've been able to distribute back to the community over $90 million. So there's quite a lot of money available, and it's a matter of how it's distributed in the community. We're just looking at applications. There isn't really a limit on it. As long as they're over $750,000, we're happy to take an application.
It's a lot of money.
You don't get that very often, do you?
Not at all. Now, one of the things that I really find intriguing about the trust is that you keep reinvesting and you strategically put the money into funds where you're going to definitely get gains and interest and things like that. So, what does the trust talk about, and how does it decide where to put the funds?
Well, it's an interesting question, and with some difficulty. Well, we have a wholly owned subsidiary company which does the investing for us. It's called Perpetual Capital Management, and we appoint 4 outside directors on that company, and we set up a SIPO, a set of conditions that they have to work to, and they work to those conditions as far as a multi-portfolio is concerned. Covers bonds and direct property and a whole lot of other investments, and then they invest in the ones that they think are going to be a winner.
So you've got quite a large portfolio spread across many different avenues.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have global equities and we have local and Australian shares, and yes, it's interesting, and we always work really, really hard. Well, I know that the company works hard, the directors work hard to make sure we get a good return.
Now, this money that's come up available for funding projects, is there anything specific that the money can be used for?
No, not really. No, it's as long as it's a significant project that's going to benefit the community. The last 2 examples, when we called for the funding, for application for funding last time, 2 of them were successful. One was the Te Wharitonga o Te Aroha Art and History Museum, and that got 4.7 million, and the other was the cart track, got just under $1 million.
So what happens in that process? Because that's a huge amount of money to give to one particular project. So what's the process involved in that?
Well, the process is that we have an annual amount, about $3 million goes out to all the small groups and the volunteers and all the organisations, and then every now and again we have the opportunity, because we've built up the capital, to put into some big projects that are really going to benefit. And if you look around the city, at the Energy Event Centre, we put $13.7 million into there. We put the Arts Village up. We put over $1 million just putting that theatre in the museum. So those are the sort of projects that will benefit. Cart Track's been fantastic. Have you been up there?
The cart track? No, I haven't been there.
Oh, you really need to go and have a go around there. It's really fantastic. But it's a wonderful asset to our community, best in Australasia. And that's sort of money. That's the sort of project we're looking for.
It's amazing that we've got something like this, like the trust here in Rotorua, because obviously it benefits everybody who uses it. So that's amazing for such a small city.
Yes, it is really. I think we're pretty lucky. The people who made that decision to put it into a community trust, I don't think they would have ever envisaged how successful it would be, because over $90 million in the last 19 years going to our community is really quite significant amount of money.
Is there any community projects at the moment that are going through the process, Graham?
Well, last time we had one project that didn't quite make the cut because they weren't quite ready, and that was St John Ambulance looking for a new station. And I know that there's the performing arts groups are working really hard to look at a performing arts theatre. So I know there are two that are on there. There are a couple of others I understand are close, but we don't want the dreams. We want the realities, because we're here and now. We've got the money, and well, dreams are really good, but not something that they're looking at in 10 years' time. We want something that's pretty well down the track with their planning, and they're looking at making a decision to go ahead in the next couple of years.
Well, Graham, we're almost out of time here, but before we do finish, I just want to ask you a question that's way off topic. This weekend is a nationwide protest to get synthetic cannabis banned from our communities, and here in Rotorua there's also a protest. What's your opinion on things like synthetic drugs?
Well, I've always been opposed to them, to be honest, Alan. I just don't believe drugs are necessary, and the people that I've observed getting hooked into them, it's not a pretty sight, really. And while they might say it's recreational, I think surely they can get their fun and enjoyment without having to have the added disadvantage of having to take drugs. And it's not just the drugs either, it's what they take with them, because if it was just one thing that would be fine, but quite often they'll have alcohol, or they'll mix the drugs. And no, I'm opposed to synthetic drugs, and any drugs, to be honest, because I just think life is much, much better without it.
Yep, absolutely.
And much more enjoyable.
I totally agree with you on that one, Graham. Well, good stuff, nice talking to you, and I'm sure we'll catch up again. Thank you.
Alan, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Kia ora whānau, welcome back to City News. Well, it's my pleasure to be joined now by this wahine toa, Watu Mihinui. She is the treasurer of the Te Arawa Kapa Trust, Charitable Trust, Paitira, and she's going to be telling us about what's coming up for the kapa hakaropu who are practicing very hard for the regionals. Tēnā roa atu koe te marae kura.
Tēnā koe kiri.
Can you tell me a little bit about how things are going? You had a meeting just recently. What's the landscape looking like for our rōpū?
Okay, our Te Arawa Kapa Regional Whakataitai will be held over 2 days, a day and a half, on Friday evening, the 9th of May, and all day Saturday, the 10th of May. This Friday evening will be the Pakeke supportive groups, of which we have 9, and then on Saturday will be the tīmatoa who are vying to represent Te Arawa at the forthcoming Te Matatini Whakataitai in Christchurch, March next year.
Oh, and it's a big deal, isn't it?
It sure is.
It's a big deal. So how many rōpū are going to be vying for those positions, and how many positions are there?
Well, because we have got 22 rōpū in our regional whakataitai, we are entitled to 6 representatives for Te Arawa at next year's Matatini campaign.
Oh, it's exciting, eh?
It is.
It's exciting. And for those of you that might not be aware, if you've been living under a rock somewhere perhaps, we had Te Matatini here only last year, didn't we?
That's right.
And the Tāhua Hoki, beautiful.
Wonderful.
Was. And so the rōpū, how are the rōpū feeling? Have you had any feedback? It's all building up?
Well, I don't think they'd mind me sharing this. We have 2 groups coming from one of our marae in the Pakeke section, and each group has a minimum of 24, so there are 2 lots of 24 plus, 24 to 40 in these Pakeke teams. And why they have 2 teams is because at the hui where they were discussing the uniform, etc., one lot wanted one colour scarves and another lot wanted a different colour scarves. And because they couldn't compromise, they have 2 teams coming from that marae.
Oh, well, there you go. That's how they sort it out, eh?
Absolutely.
They just stay with their own idea and just have 2 teams, or kawhai.
Oh,
And so is there anything else that you can tell us that will interest all of our kapahaka fanatics out there? What would they love to know?
Well, one of the Matatini finalists, our only team from Te Arawa who made the Matatini finals last year, Te Matara Iorihu, they are the last team on the Saturday. That'll be about 5 p.m. or something like that. The day starts Saturday at 9 a.m. and then we see 13 teams over the course of the day, and within an hour that night the results will be announced.
Are you allowed to tell us any of the other order of any of the other teams?
Well, my own team, Tūhaurangi Ngāti Mahiao, is on 11th.
They're on 11th.
11th, yes.
And who's on first?
Our team from Ngāti Whakaue, where the event centre is, that's Papa of Ngāti Whakaue, Tara Kurupiti, and so they are going on first.
So we've got a beginning, a middle and the end. Tell me just finally, what does kapahaka do for us as a people? Because it's a beautiful art form, but it's so much more than that, isn't it?
It's one of our most prestigious arts within Te Ao Māori, and it's a way of instilling some pride into people who have never had that consideration before in their lives. It's a way of connecting to each other, to their whenua, to their marae, and it's a great form of exercise, and it's to help with longevity of life and all of that.
And Whaia, where can we get the tickets?
Tickets will be available within a couple of weeks from Ticketmaster at the Convention Centre. The prices are Friday night, it's just one fee of $5, general admission fee. On Saturday it is $15 for adults, and adults start from $15, and then $15 for adults and $10 for tamariki 5 to 14 and kaumātua 65 plus.
Ka pai. Kia ora.
With the election coming up later in the year, one of the big issues facing our country is health. Green Party Health spokesperson MP Kevin Haig is with me today, and he's travelling the country having open discussions about the solutions the Green Party can offer. Hi Kevin, thanks for joining us today. Now, you've just finished your discussion at Rave, or the Arts Village. What were some of the major topics you guys were talking about?
Well, it was one of the stops on my national speaking tour about health issues. And what I've been saying is that the current minister, the current government, has been managing the health portfolio from a short-term political perspective and ignoring the big issues in health. So I've wanted to go out and talk about the big issues, and I'm talking about funding, for example. Government's been cutting funding for health services, and we need to reverse that. They've been putting money into the wrong places, so they've been putting money into more specialised services when we actually need the biggest investment in keeping people well. I've been talking about inequalities in health, how if you're poor, if you're Māori, if you have disabilities, you get a bad deal out of the health system, and you probably have poorer health to begin with. And some of those issues, workforce issues, these are the big issues that the current government has been ignoring.
Why is that? Why do they ignore those sorts of issues? Because you look around, especially here in Rotorua, you see those problems firsthand walking down the street, smoking, diabetes, people overweight. There needs to be some sort of education. Why does the government ignore that?
Well, it's hard to know, because I don't think like this government, but I believe it is probably that they don't think that people here in Rotorua, those people that you're talking about, vote for them. And I think that they have been managing the health portfolio, but also other aspects of government services, just from the point of view of how do we maximise the vote for National, and not how do we best improve the health of New Zealanders. Now we absolutely have got to get on top of that obesity, smoking-related disease, and we're not doing it now. We're not doing it because government is choosing to leave in its toolbox those crucial tools of taxation, regulation, legislation, the things that we know actually would work to improve outcomes.
Now obviously there's issues out there and there's always going to be issues, and if the government's not addressing these issues, what does the Green Party propose?
Well, what we're saying first of all, and I mean it's a pretty basic thing, every year under this government funding for health services has gone further and further down in real terms. So the sector is not being able to keep pace with the growing need for health services. But at the same time as it's cutting money for health, it's been providing tax cuts for the wealthiest 10% of people. It's been spending billions of dollars on new motorways. Actually, we say, first of all, we need to actually maintain the capacity of health services to provide for New Zealanders' needs. Secondly, we need to focus the services on preventing illness in the first place. Thirdly, we need to ensure that we've got the workforce, the doctors, the nurses, the other health professionals that we need for the future. And maybe most importantly of all, we need to focus on improving the health of those who currently have the poorest health, rather than improving the health of those who are already the healthiest. We absolutely have got to reduce those inequalities, and currently they're going the wrong way. We've got increasing inequalities.
Now you're talking about the government's got it wrong short term. What are the implications long term if they keep going down the track that they are already?
Well, this set of problems has massive long-term implications. Some of those come in the form of these epidemics of what we call chronic conditions, things like diabetes and heart disease and arthritis and depression, that currently we're not doing nearly enough about, and they are going to swamp our health services if we are not able to get on top of them now. They're already starting to do that in some areas. So the implication for New Zealanders is if you need health services for pretty much any reason, those services may well not be available for you unless we make some radically different choices now. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is health is not only an end in itself, it's also something we use for everything else that we do in our lives. You know, that our enjoyment of our lives, our ability to get out into the redwoods here, or be in the workplace, or support our whānau, you know, all of those things require us to be healthy. So the implication for allowing New Zealanders' health to be degraded, as this government is doing, is that all of those other areas of our lives are also going to be degraded.
Well, we're out of time now, Kevin, but appreciate your time today and good luck with the rest of your tour. Thank you.
Thanks, great to talk.
That was Green Party MP Kevin Haig talking with Alan Solomon. If you have any news that you'd like to share with us, give the station a call on 07 3488 984 or email news@tv.rotorua.co.nz. Thanks for joining us tonight. Ko Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News was brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.